Welcome to this episode of the Elite Question Askers. As always, my name, Jayson.
I am ready.
Yeah.
I am ready. If you're watching YouTube, you can see my name.
And the same difference, I'm moving the cursor so you can see my name. So
yeah, the cursor ain't up on this recording, so nope. Who I don't know.
I'm Dietrich Taylor. How about that?
Hey,
I'm Mo Williams.
Great job, man. Super quick backstory to that. That was how they pronounce my name in Europe and Israel specifically. And to this day, when I call my mom, that is how she was. She said, "Hey, Jayson."
Nice.
Just
love it.
Shout out to Mama Wells.
I love it.
Big shout out.
Let's get right into it. Fist bump moments, fellas. What you got?
Here we go.
Come on, man.
Yeah, come on, Mo. Come on, man. Fist bump moments. I'll go with just a recent one, as recent as probably it was like 3:00 today. So our guys have started our preseason or our off-season training, and instead of just asking them, "Hey, how's it going?" and making them feel like, because I'm not able to be in the workouts and see what they're doing, I've been more intentional on how can I serve you? How can I lead you in the role that I am able to be in? How do you think guys are doing things? And I would say also just really trying to, I've shared with both of you guys, just trying to continue to align our guys with our core values, to pull those things away from a piece of paper and really make them who we are and what we do. So something I am excited about with this group that I haven't done as a head coach is just getting our strength coach in alignment with what those values are. So talking about, and this isn't directly from me, it's a book from Urban Meyer, but Above the Line, identifying with every core value, putting it on the board. This is what it is for today. And then, hey, there you go.
Message.
What is above the line behavior with that core value? What's below the line behavior with that? There you go. And if I was in the office, I have mine too. And then, getting those guys to, now that we've identified it, pulls coach away and really putting the ownership on them. Like, I'll tell you guys, like the word for this week is faith. It's our first core value. And that's what's unseen. It's an uncommon belief. So I reference it to look out today for the guy that's pushing that bar, and he's got about 6 reps in comfortably, and that 7th one, it's in that stuck spot. And we all can, if you see me on the video, you can see what I'm doing. It's just not moving. And obviously I don't want the guys to like just sit there and watch the dude just hold the bar, but I want them to, while he hits that moment, to be really intentional with the language we're using with that, instead of just lifting it up. And if he can't pull anymore, really being intentional and saying, like, now Wednesday or whenever we come back to that workout, you should be really trying to fight to get to that 7, get to that 7, get to that 7. That's our language to you, is get to that 7. So just really excited, man, on just continuing to add meaning to commonly used things that we do and say with our team. So that's my fist bump moment, is instead of being a cop and jumping right in and, evaluating everything and trying to get myself in it, just asking good questions and trying to align us in the leadership role that I can be.
D, you over there, you got that big brother smile again, dog. What you got going on over there, man?
I he referenced the book, and to me, like there's 5 books. If you want to know who I am, read these 5 books, and this is definitely one of them. And I just opened it, and I think it's obviously it's highlighted, but I thumbed through it and I went to a page and it just said, like, Urban was telling a story about a bishop that I think he was at his church or something, and the bishop asked, "How do you spell love?" And the people started to spell LOVE, and the bishop was like, "No, TIME, time." And so obviously that just took me in a different direction. But then also with Urban Meyer being in a little bit of hot water. Yeah.
He been recently a little bit below that line.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
No doubt about it. And as me and D showed our copies of the book, you know, you are sitting there, and I can tell just by seeing the color and the word "the" that you are representing the Ohio State University right now. You know,
Hey, there's a Drake line. He says, "Hardly home, but
always
rapping."
repping. Yeah.
Hey, I like it. I like it.
D, go ahead, man. What you got, Mo? That's big time, bro. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm gonna do something a little bit different. My fist bump moment is I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. Just how active this transfer portal is, and how active myself and our staff are trying to be in learning as much as we can about the guys that are in the transfer portal. So I would say that has consumed me probably the last 5 or 6 days. Just trying to learn information about different guys and how we can help each other. So that would definitely say that's my fist bump moment.
My fist bump moment would be to myself of consistently being open to challenge and growth. I had another blind spot that was revealed to me this week, and you guys know, but like this journey that I take the people that I work with on, my explorers, is rooted in blind spots, vision, and clarity. Having people that you trust, that from a relationship standpoint know you well enough, you trust them, they trust you well enough to be able to present these blind spots to you wherever they may be. It could be romantic relationship, friendship relationship, professional relationship, whatever they are, but know you well enough, trust you well enough, you trust them well enough to identify these blind spots to allow you to be open to them. And the identification of those blind spots now create a new vision. I get to see more or differently or better or whatever it is. And then from there, I personally think the fun part is spending the rest of my life just fine tuning and just getting clear. You guys have both heard me use the analogy of, you know, we 35 years ago, it was rabbit ears on the antennas with aluminum foil, if you had that. And then we moved into analog, and then we moved into standard definition and high definition, 4K, 8K. Now we're in virtual reality. So, you know, you literally spend the rest of your life being clear, but really just being at a point where I have people that know me, love me, trust me well enough to be able to identify these blind spots or at least present these blind spots, and then me being open to it. So it's a pretty cool space to be in. There it is. Anything, anybody piggyback, add, or share to any of our fist bump moments before we get into the content?
I would say I appreciate you for being that in my world. How about that one?
Enough said. Enough said, and
I add to that.
No doubt. Yeah.
I add to that.
Oh, you said you add to that. Let's say, can I add to that? Yeah.
I add to that. I think that's facts. That's facts.
Appreciate that. Ignite question. A little bit more in depth tonight, as I feel like our topic is going to be a little bit more in depth tonight. But what is something that you are internally challenged with at the current present moment? I don't think I'm gonna edit the silence on this one. However long it takes for one of us to answer, we're gonna go for it.
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it in terms of internally just defining the different meanings of success. For myself personally, what that looks like to me, and the type of validation that I receive, but then also what success looks like to other people and trying to help them achieve that success, but also trying to help them understand why they're not achieving that success. I think that's right now in this moment in my world, that is challenging. I will say that is definitely challenging.
Mo, you got anything? You want me to go? It don't matter.
The only thing I have to add to that is I think it should be challenging, because that definition, if it doesn't come from you, you're going to be tugged in a lot of different ways trying to find out what that really is. And something very, very small, but this dude, and I know who he is, and I'm going to be very, very intentional on being very general with this, but he came by my space of where I work. And obviously you can go through what that is. And it said something that you just shouldn't say to somebody that's in control of a basketball program. Something as simple as how we substitute a game. And I heard that, and immediately, like, I thought, like, all right, but you say you're supporting me, right? Like I love when people say, I support you, but, right? And it's like, that's not support. Like, support is, hey, you lost, man, that's okay. Not that I'm gonna just throw money at you, but like support, it looks to me in a lot of different ways of being there for you. And I learned through that is every single time, it goes back to that word for the year for me, those boundaries. Those boundaries have to even be put up even when someone gets into my space and get in the fence. Like, I have to immediately let them know, like, hey, there's a fence here. So even though you got in, I can clearly kick you back out. You know, and that clearly is defined based off of the internal view that I view as success, which is peace. You know, that peace for me, the world doesn't give it to me and the world can't take it away, but it can be disturbed if I allow it to be disturbed. So that's where I think that definition part is so key, because I think we're in a business where you constantly can be not satisfied, where outside people can think you have it all together.
Message.
Was that your internal challenge, or you was just piggybacking on D's comment?
I was just piggybacking.
Damn, that's a hell of a piggyback, bro.
Yeah, that was. Oh, I'm speechless.
Appreciate the compliment, man.
I'm just, because you just dropped all that, I'm gonna go next and just let you get a moment to cool off.
I think we need a moment. Dang. Sheet.
What to say? Welcome to our world. This the more we know. Now we talking.
Sheet.
I am internally challenged. First off, I'm super excited, and we know that, and we already talked about it. We're gonna record an episode, so look forward to that, how it comes about. But the three of us are going to see each other this weekend down in New Orleans at Final Four. I'm super excited about that. And also, this time of year specifically has been tough for me because it's the boys' birthdays. This year has been more of a challenge, even though I will see them. You guys know they will both be with me when we're down in New Orleans, which will be a totally different experience. But the challenge has been, Jalen will be 15 years old on the 2nd, and Jaden, or Tiger nickname, will be 12 years old on the 31st of March in 2 days from recording. And the challenge is rooted in, at 15 and 12, at finishing freshman year and finishing first year of middle school, teenager and pre-teenager, I'm struggling with, it's time for my boys to have some daddy time. She has done a phenomenal job in raising them for the, you know, like having them the majority of the time and being there for them. And yeah, I had a conversation with her a couple months ago, and we can get into a whole scrum about this, but in a nutshell, my ex-wife being non-Black, my comment to her was, there are two things that you can't teach them. You can't teach them the Black experience, and you can't teach them the male experience. And in her, like, she received that pretty well, and still objected to it and pushed back on it. So, yeah, man, that's been a challenge for me, man, is knowing that in this very, very critical time of adolescence and young malehood and puberty and all this other stuff, like, I think about how influential my father was in my life, and I am challenged with knowing that from a physical standpoint, I'm unable to show up like that in their lives as we speak. So that's been real.
Yeah, that's tough. One of my very best friends was faced with the same challenge, same challenge, but he was able to answer the bell and conquered it with a lot of what do you think? What do you say? Like a lot of the way that he was thinking and his thought process and how he approached it. I thought it was very, very unique, but very productive. I'll share it with you offline here.
Yeah, no doubt. Appreciate that. Even that part of it, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's just important.
Sorry.
Oh, no, you good. You good.
I was just gonna say it's not in an effort to try to, make your challenge any lighter or any different. It's just letting you know other dudes have dealt with exactly what you're dealing with.
No doubt.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Just credit to you and all the spaces you create of making sure we don't struggle in silence. So, I mean, I think that's just so important because, yeah, I mean, I know a lot of guys that had that same situation, and it's got to be comforting to hear just other people's like situations, being able to kind of navigate together opposed to feeling like you got to figure it out on your own.
Both of y'all appreciate that.
Yeah. I think for me, mine is understanding my emotions, like being in touch with them and being okay with them. I think I said on here before that emotions are great passengers, but they're horrible drivers. But also acknowledging them that they're in the passenger seat, like making sure I'm putting them there in the passenger seat, not letting them drive. Hey, you can go around this corner here, but after we go around this corner, I'm gonna take it over and you sit over there. Like, nah, immediately, let's sit that thing right in the passenger seat and let's feel it. Let's acknowledge it, but let's not be driven by it. And I think really what I mean by that a lot of is just kind of those interactions of when I leave the space that I can control, that it's on. That could be at home, that could be parenting, that could be with the player, that could be anything. And I shared with Jay on our call this morning, like, from a spiritual perspective, I feel that my life's really changed because I know from my pastor constantly talks to us about, you have the greatest playbook in the world in your hands. You have access to it. But if you don't know the plays, we're all coaches here. Just imagine 2 or 3 people knowing it and the other 2 on the court don't know what they're doing. It ain't gonna go well. The spacing's not gonna go right. It's not gonna be executed. Ball be turned over. You get a bad shot at the best. And it's just I'm just learning, but it is challenging to just tap into that book. Like, just tap into it. Like, act second, go to him first. And it's challenging because I'm a fixer and I want to jump right in and I want to do it. or I feel I need to get that word in, but I have seen the results of it being positive, and now it's just continuing to follow that path and, kind of die to self more.
Man, I appreciate y'all.
That was coming. I knew that was coming. I started to say, don't say that.
I do though.
It's not rehearsed.
It is not rehearsed.
It's not rehearsed.
And here's what I'll do. Instead of you telling me don't say that, I would rather you tell me, what do you mean in that moment? Because there's a thought behind it. Like in each time I say that, there's a thought behind it. So smart ass, here's the thought behind that specific one. Mo, for you to say I'm a fixer, we haven't done this as often as we talk, which I think I shared this with you before. As I go in my Dropbox and after I record our calls and put them into Dropbox, you are the only person from a one-on-one standpoint who has 3 years. You have 2020, 2021, and 2022. We started in the tail part of 2020. So you have a folder of the last part of those calls, all of 21, and this first part of 2022. But out of all of our calls, bro, I don't think we've ever talked about, I have content specifically around my phrase of tame the fixer. Taming the fixer. Because that's what we do. That's what we do as men. That's what we do as Black men. That's what we do. But taming that fixer, bro, taming that fixer of you even releasing a little bit of pressure off yourself to go into a situation not feeling like you have to correct it or solve it. That's a hell of a load off of you, or a hell of a load off of the person that's sharing about, like, there's just so much to that. So to hear you specifically say that word, it was really a light bulb moment for me of, here we go, KD. I told you 1%. 1%. I told you that from like damn near conversation one.
No, you did. You did. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Here we are once again, and I feel like we laughed about this earlier when we talked on our little morning call, but I feel like we just talked about somebody slapping the shit out of somebody, and here we go again, talking about somebody slapping the shit out of somebody in a different light, though. And it's wild because Mo, you actually, what? Yeah, he even said it. He said, I just got Will Smith just slapped the shit out.
Literally.
Woo!
That's what he said.
Yeah, that's what he felt. He felt that in his bones, man.
Man, and I'm gonna go to also like the microphone. I don't know the placement of the microphone, but the microphone did make it sound like a punch. It didn't sound like a slap, but it sounded.
Well, imagine I'm off track here, but imagine how hard he hit him. If it was a slap, but it sounded like a punch.
Like,
oh. What?
Most people have seen it. Most people know what we're talking about. If you don't know what we're talking about, come from under that rock. No pun intended. So you got Will Smith, Chris Rock at the Oscars, and that goes down. Fellas, Mo, is what I was saying about it being wild is you actually brought this up about when we were talking about it a couple of weeks ago. You brought it up and said, this situation would warrant this. However, this situation may warrant a different reaction. And here we are a month later, literally having this conversation about a different reaction. So Chris Rock, knowingly or unknowingly, makes this comment about Jada, her hair. I think there's a whole lot to it, and I want to get to as much as we can as far as getting to it. But yeah, well, I don't even have like where are we going from there? Like your recollection of it so far. Let's go. Your opinion, and not to you specifically, Mo, but either one of you. What's your take on it? Start the convo.
I mean, I'll go first since you said my name about what I said.
Damn.
And I don't take it back. But I view it as this, like our minds are this control center of like switches, right? And within those switches, they get flipped based by the emotion that is happening at that given time. And what I meant by that comment was there are certain switches that control certain things and have a deeper impact than something else. And when it comes to family, even, I mean, there's a cultural aspect in this as well. Like, you know, we all grew up at the lunch table. I mean, I remember growing up, like, you know, parents kind of taught us, it's just in our home, like how to handle joking. But there was just an unwritten rule in our culture of like what you didn't touch unless you knew, like, okay, I'm taking that on intentionally because I'm gonna say that to you. That's what I meant with that. But when in regards to this situation, I understand it. I don't think it's right. And I don't think it's right on both parts. And my take on that is this: we pay so much attention to the behavior that's displayed to us right in that moment, but there's always something that we don't see.
Mm.
And I was talking to you earlier on our call, Jay, about this reference that my pastor said. It's like gold to me is if you can imagine being in your backyard, it's a very windy day and you just seeing a lawn chair just blow like crazy from one side of the yard to the other side of the yard. We pay too much attention to that chair going across the yard and the damage because of the weight of that chair, possibly what it could do. What we forget is there's something that you can't see. You can't see wind that actually caused it to do that. And it goes back to like what I was sharing with you is the wars on this earth has nothing to do with what we see. It's all spiritual. You know, to me, spiritual is what you can't see. You can't see it. You can't feel it. You know, but that's what it is. I think even in our school systems, even with our players, even in any relationship, when those types of things come up, we pay too much attention to the action that's displayed and less into the why or what's going on. And we are either the healing of the trauma that we've gone through or we're victims of it. And that's what I think we saw in that moment. And I don't think it mattered whether it was the Oscars or playing cards at his house or in the backyard. I don't think, because I think there's some weight on, well, if it's somebody, if this person did it or this person did it, I don't think that even mattered. I don't think that mattered. I think at the end of the day, there was something internal that people did not see. And I think this is the victim or the terrible part of social media is once something like that happens, it blows up and everybody thinks their opinions are right and somebody's wrong. But I think solely what we saw was some undealt trauma or some undealt things with him that was triggered that night, mainly from a sense of protecting his wife.
I just want to hear, like, are you gonna keep the same energy as a couple weeks ago? As we fighting, son? What we doing? Just let me know as we fighting.
Yeah, I'm pissed that Will Smith apologized to Chris Rock.
Interesting.
I think Chris Rock should be apologizing to Will Smith for saying what he said, whether he knew it or he didn't know it. That
he did apologize.
He did apologize. I think after the fact, like a day later or 24 hours later. Again, this is my opinion, playing Monday morning quarterback. I think he should apologize right then and there on the spot. Like, hey, yo, I wasn't intending to do that, or whatever the case may be. That in terms of that, like, that's where my mind went. I just think that right or wrong can be argued from all kinds of different angles. I just think the quote that Mo just gave us in terms of the emotions are a good passenger probably would have been appropriate in this situation, but nobody else was in the situation but Will. And Will chose to respond the way that he did. And I don't have a problem with it. Because what if the shoe was on the other foot? What if Will would have said that about Chris Rock's mom? Or his ex-wife, or his wife, or his girlfriend, whoever it is, his significant other. I just think for every action, there's a reaction. And like Mo said, we pay attention to what we can see. What we saw was drama. What we saw was stuff that fuels conversations such as this. When the reality of it is nobody really died. Nobody got hurt, so to speak. I mean, egos got hurt. Chris Rock's probably, his chin might hurt. I mean, not his chin. What's his cheek? His cheek might hurt a little bit, but I mean, what are we really talking about? That just, yeah, I have, probably an opinion about what Will did, but I'm not saying it's right. It ain't saving nobody's life.
But did you die? Real?
Right. Did you die? That's my 2 cents. And I don't know, for the record, I'm all about slapping his ass.
I feel like in this moment, we talked about this earlier and we laughed a bit. Let's not let the people in on the laugh. I mean, I kind of feel a certain kind of way that slapping is back in style. Shit, like, jeez, let's slap him.
Hey, whatever it calls for, that's what's gonna happen.
Ooh, what did the 5 fingers say to the space?
My man got straight slapped.
All right, give me 90 seconds. Actually, I'm gonna share my screen. I just want you to listen to this. I don't know if either one of you have started the book, read the book, but I want you to listen to this. Listen to the first 90 seconds.
Chapter 1, Fear. I've always thought of myself as a coward. Most of my memories of my childhood involve me being afraid in some way. Afraid of other kids, afraid of being hurt or embarrassed, afraid of being seen as weak. But mostly, I was afraid of my father. When I was 9 years old, I watched my father punch my mother in the side of her head so hard that she collapsed. I saw her spit blood. That moment in that bedroom, probably more than any other moment in my life, has defined who I am today. Within everything that I've done since then, the awards and accolades, the spotlights and the attention, the characters and the laughs, there's been a subtle string of apologies to my mother for my inaction that day, for failing her in that moment, for failing to stand up to my father, for being a coward. What you've come to understand as Will Smith, the alien annihilating MC, the bigger-than-life movie star, is largely a construction, a carefully crafted and honed character designed to protect myself, to hide myself from the world, to hide the coward.
Like, that's opening sentence, fellas. Like, there was an intro and all of that, but he even comes back. I think it's at the start of chapter 2 with in West Philadelphia, born and raised. Like, that's how you thought I was going to start this shit. No, no, that ain't how I'm going to start it off. I'm going to start it off with this buzzword of authenticity. Bro, come on, man. You can't get much more transparent than that. And when we're talking about what we witnessed over the weekend, you guys saw in the men's chat, my feeling on that. Me recently reading this book, with it being as fresh on my mind as it is, with me knowing the story, with me seeing and reading the information that I've gotten over the past 48 hours, what we saw, the lawn chair that we saw, was rooted in wind from a 9-year-old boy. That was not Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. That was Will Smith standing up for his mom onto his dad from 30-something years ago, 40-something years ago. That's what we saw. That's what I feel like we saw. This man has lived his entire life, fame, money, cars, women, everything else, with this deep-rooted insecurity of not being able to protect the woman that he loved most. And in that moment on Sunday night, he got presented with, quote unquote, the opportunity to redeem himself. I ain't about to let this go through twice. I think if he'd have let that go through twice, You talk about spam, fellas. You talk about status, performance, appearance, and money. You talk about 2 out of those 3 things, 2 out of those 4 things, 3 out of those 4 things, all 4 of those things being out of alignment and stuff being catastrophic. I feel like if that wouldn't have happened in that moment, God forbid, something catastrophic would have happened to Will Smith that night. He would have done something to himself or to somebody else that would have been irreconcilable. This can be reconciled. That's just my thought.
I'm gonna go this direction. Feel free to pull it back another direction, but I think this also shows up with the children that look like us in these school systems. I mean, how many times the kids that look like us are labeled as being, man, he's bad, man, he is bad. Like, that's what you see. Like, Will Smith was a young child when he saw that. So it goes back to what I was saying before, like the behavior that we're seeing, there's something deeper than what you're seeing. Like, there are kids that look like us that see this stuff normally, and then somehow at 8 or 10 or whatever age, where it goes from like cute to like, man, that's one of Bebe's kids. They're supposed to be able to be like, okay, this happened at home and that was really bad, so now I'm in school and I'm gonna act this way. Like, that's not realistic. That's not realistic. And I think, like, where I go back to is either we respond based off getting healing from the trauma that we saw in our lives, or we fall victim to it. And not only I mean, the will thing is a hot topic, it's an example, but like, I hear and see it from an educator's perspective. Like, how many of our kids lose the opportunity of being educated or labeled in these educational spaces because of the behavior that they show? Because I mean, I'm angry. I feel nobody cares about me. So I'm going to come in here and act in this space and act accordingly. I'm going to fight in this space because that's the only way I've ever seen. You know, I think Ray Lewis has a very powerful story like that as well.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense football was really great for him. But I'm sure there's some other ways when he was a child, it might have came out another way. He just got out and developed an incredible talent where maybe we don't know about those things because on Sundays we saw that in a positive way with another jersey. Just my thought.
And who knows, bro, that quote unquote, as you throw the air quotes up, that quote unquote positive way could have truly been the outlet, because here I am, I get to display this in a positive way in arguably one of the most violent sports. So I get to, like, you know, football, boxing, where I really get to whoop somebody's ass and it's okay. Will Smith didn't necessarily get afforded that opportunity. Like, rapping and acting don't show up with that level of volatility for you to be able to necessarily release that. If that's how it's being released, man, that's a powerful statement. That's a powerful statement. D, what you got over there, man? The thinker, what you got?
I mean, since we're going the psychological route, and
You want to get hood with it. You just want to.
Well, get hood with it then. Come on with it.
What it is, my man got slapped because he said something in his mouth. He said something he wasn't supposed to say, and he got slapped. If you want to dumb it down, from my perspective, that's what happened. He said something he wasn't supposed to say. It was out of line. My man physically told him, "You're out of line. Keep my wife's name out your mouth." But since we're talking about the philosophical, or not the philosophical, the psychological angle, I would say, just listening to listening to the book, to me, like, how powerful that is for him to take his mask off and probably let his guard down to a level of vulnerability that probably we all have, but we all use the mask to hide that vulnerability. And he told you what his biggest fear was. And not only did he tell you, but you can read it. And here is one of the dudes that, like, one of the biggest stars that we'll ever know. And he's telling you he's dealing with what most would consider, what I would consider layman problems. They're everyday issues. And so he's no different. He's no different, in my opinion. He just told you what his biggest fear was. And from a psychological standpoint, first of all, to do that, to be who he is, and to do that, to me, I have a different level of respect for him. And then, it just I feel like I'm repeating a lot of what Mo said in terms of, what we saw was the chair being thrown across the room. We didn't see what he said in his book, or we didn't hear that. And you don't hear that or see that in any social media right now, at least the stuff that I have access to, that I've paid attention to. You don't see that. You don't see the level of vulnerability. All you see is him smacking my man. So, I think there's a lot of Will characteristics that he has that are very like a lot of us. But we can't see ourselves the same because he's ascended to levels that we, by using in a lot of sense, using a mask. To Mo's point, he uses a mask. That's not like the person that we see on the big screen, the rapper. He just said it. That's a facade. The real him shows up as a coward. And for me, like I applaud that. Like I want to hug the dude. Because I resonate with that. Not necessarily the coward part, but there's a lot of insecurities about myself that I don't know if they've been dealt with or they come out, and all of these different things. But as you said, Jay, they could come out in catastrophic fashion. And you both know how weird my mind is.
You can co-sign on that.
You're gonna co-sign. We're gonna co-sign with good credit. You got a 760 and you still get a co-signer, son.
Yeah. When I say catastrophic, I mean that in every sense of the word.
Yep.
So here we are. We live in 2022. You got for 48 hours, everybody, D, you and I talked about this earlier. Everybody has always had the right to their opinion, but now in 2022, not only do you have the right to your opinion, but you now have a platform to voice it. Everybody's got a camera. Everybody's got a microphone. 30 years ago, that was usually limited to journalists. All right. Oh, man, where was that energy with August Alsina? Why he ain't do that to such and such? Like all of this coulda, woulda, shoulda, what I would have done. I wish he would have slapped me like that. Okay, you'd have just been another motherfucker slapped. You know what I'm saying?
Where you at? Because I'll slap the shit out of you. How about
that? Everybody got something to say. Very few people. Mo, you said this earlier when we spoke, man, and I thought it was brilliant. In a relative sense and in an overall sense, what problem do you have that we see in this world that can't be resolved with love? There isn't one. Any war we fighting, love. Any discrimination we're facing, love. Any misunderstanding, like anything can be solved with love. But damn, that's simple, but not easy.
Message.
Like, it's so much easier for me to sit here and call Will whatever. I just read something just before we got on the call. One of my former teammates. Some people are idolizing him. I call it a coward. Cool. The next person coming back. Like everybody got something to say, and ain't nobody saying, like on the red table talk. Dude took that like
Pause.
Okay, like we've watched this guy, and I'm let me lead with this: not condoning what he did. Like Emmanuel Acho said it the best. I feel like, and I don't even go into everything I could go into, but in a nutshell, I do not condone the what, but I definitely understand the why. Definitely. And D, last thing, I promise I'm shutting up. Your point. Why are we acting like this ain't the shit that would have went on at a cards table? If we was at a card table and you said some shit like that, that's what's gonna happen. Why are we acting like that's not the result of saying some wild shit?
Because you know why? Who did we do it in front of? Where did it happen?
Oh, is because it happened on the Oscar stage?
Yeah, that's not our space. That's not our space.
So what about the people that will say, "Oh man, Will Smith set us back 200 years with that"?
I don't even understand what that means.
What does that mean?
And if that's your opinion, awesome, good. Hope it does you good. Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Good for you.
But for real, what does that mean? What does that mean when people say that they set us back 200 years? Like, what does that mean, son?
I don't know. What I what I will say is this, and we all are fans of comedy. I love comedy. What I would say is this is probably the worst. Trying to say frame this the right way. The worst time period to be a comic. Like being a lover of Bernie Mac. And yeah, I'm just gonna go with Bernie Mac. RIP, one of my favorites. Like, man, I feel there is a lot of backlash that he'd have got. And I think the way he'd have handled it would have been brilliant. Like, I think some of that shut down Chappelle a little bit, for real. Like, I think, yeah, he had the special where, you know, he talked about it, but I think largely, like, man, I couldn't imagine from looking from Chris Rock's perspective, like, you know, man, I mean, what is too far? And how do we know that he knew? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I'm not in any way trying to defend or right or wrong. I'm just saying that space as a lover of comedy, I could imagine that space being not the same as what it used to be in the early 2000s, 90s, early 90s, mid 90s. Just throwing that out there as well.
Yeah.
But obviously, the Oscars ain't a comedy show.
No, but I would double down and say that the Oscars is trying to emulate a level of comedy, trying to make it. But I would double down in this regard and say you said that it's the worst time to be a comedian. I would say this is crazy, and I can't believe I'm saying it, but it's truly how I feel. I think it's the worst time to be a human in the human race. Because just what Jayson said, not only do people have an opinion, but now they have multiple platforms to share that opinion, which I don't have a problem with. But now all of a sudden, those thoughts and those feelings or opinions, they become sticking points. You don't agree to disagree. Now you want to fight. Hey, man, respect. If that's what you think, cool. If I agree with it, awesome. If I don't, keep it as far away from me as possible. Don't bring it around me, or I'm not going to come around you. But that's your prerogative. That's what you think. That's how you handle business. Cool. There's a respect factor there in terms of that. And again, I would just say, like, you know, to be a human in this race of humankind, there's a lot at stake. And I'll take it even one step further. To be of the Black human race amongst this world, case in point, and nobody really wants to talk about it, but I am right now, the Ukraine-Russian war, right? It's happening. Terrible. Terrible. But I think what's even more terrible, if that's a word, if that's a phrase, but do you understand how they're treating Black people that live in the Ukraine? They've showed the police escorting Black people off the train, off the bus. You can't come on here. That to me, that goes back to I don't know that we really want to be, I don't know that I want to be a human at this point. Because that ain't the human race. That ain't love.
The level of transparency, vulnerability, authenticity in this space that we've created for the three of us and for the people who are privileged, and I'm really intentional with using that word, privileged to be in this space. Because this, like, people make money, they charge for these mastermind. Like, this is a mastermind call. Let's call it what it is. And for us to sit here in the positions we sit in, with the responsibilities that we have, with the titles that we have, and display a level of vulnerability. And please, for anybody that's listening, watching, if it's your first time or your 9th time, please understand what I've heard each of us say is not talking about right, wrong, good, or bad. Talking about the perception from our viewpoint, and our 3 viewpoints happen to be relatively similar. Yeah, there's some differences in there, but they come from a relatively similar place. And I will start off money moments by saying, I just read something and I thought it was one of those. Y'all remember Raphael Sadiq's first solo album? It was called Instant Vintage. And so when I get to a point where I hear something and it's automatic, I will say that's instant vintage right there. Instant vintage. As soon as I heard this, people will push you to the line of morality and then mock you when you cross it. People will push you to the line of morality and then mock you when you cross it. I thought that was hot fire. If I'm Dylan. Come on, man. Like, that's the world we live in. Oh, Will Smith, you a bitch. Oh, Will Smith, you this, you this. And all of a sudden, Will Smith smack. Will Smith, you a bitch because you ain't do nothing to August Alsina. Man, this woman and said, da, 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 da. Okay, cool. Next month, say something. Now I'm wrong. I'm Michael Jackson in the Wiz. I can't win. What I'm gonna do? I'm done with that. What y'all got, man? That's the Wiz reference is really testing your cinema right there, son.
I like the Raphael Sadiq you went with, man. That was a cold dude right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a cold dude. Man, money moments. They're really, I think, just the space for me, honestly, man. Like, as I sit, when those types of things happen in our world, our society, I immediately become a listener, because as we shared, when you get on these platforms, man, especially your Twitters, your Facebooks, everybody just, this is right, this is wrong. And then you have this space, which is also, I'm gonna get back to being serious, but which is also hilarious. I think we all can appreciate of comedy with this. And that, I mean, there's some funny stuff about it too. But jumping back to the serious side, where I just like, man, I think I was really just excited to just jump on and just, just share perspectives. And Jay, I thought you really placed that in a very, very eloquent way, in a sense of like, yeah, we all kind of had our own different things, but it was all very relatively simple. So I think the money moment for me is just this space of talking about something that is very popular. It's very opinion driven, but you being able to create the space where we're actually sharing facts too, like actually listening to, hey, this is what the man wrote. So, your feelings or opinions also needs to be very clear on the facts of his vulnerability in life that he shared too. So that's the money moment for me, is just this space that was created. I know we talked about it earlier, but I had no idea what direction you wanted to go. So I just really wanted to be a passenger and enjoy the ride on this one.
Appreciate that. DT, bring us home, man. I feel like you about to, the look on your face. Feel like you about to bring us all the way left. Bring us home to the left, son. Let's do it.
Oh man, I ain't gonna say nothing crazy. I just appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts and share my opinion, and then listen to people that I respect. Two people, you and Mo, that I respect the hell out of. Their perspective, and I appreciate it. And just listening to what you all said and what you shared, and the depth of the thinking, or the thought process that went behind what you shared, I thought was really impressive. But I also think, in this call, my respect for Will Smith moved up a notch, not because he slapped him. I mean, that has nothing to do with it. I joke around with that, but because of his level, the level of vulnerability and the decision he made to share that with us, I think that needs to be applauded. I think that needs to be highlighted at a different level, because that's the humanity of him. That's what he goes through. That's what he looks at every single day. And those are the things that he deals with that are, I would say, they're common amongst all of us, and yeah, I just, my respect for him. And like Mo just said, I appreciate the opportunity to listen to people that I care what they think. I don't necessarily care to think or to hear or read other people's opinion on Twitter, because it doesn't, come on, man. It doesn't matter. But I was also laughing as you were talking about the difference amongst us in terms of the way we interpret different things and our discrepancy, so to speak. And I just envisioned, I ain't figured out who you are, but I would say Mo is Martin Luther the King. And
Hey,
I'm
not Martin Luther the King. Hell
yes,
yeah.
yes, the King. You heard it right. You heard me. Martin Luther the King.
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Who are you, son? Who are you? I think we all, if that's where
Interesting.
you're going, we all know who you are.
yeah, well then there it is.
By any means necessary.
AKA the Red Man. That's what it is, Mike.
Nah, man, I appreciate that. If we're going to use that dynamic, we'll figure it out. I don't know how much either one of you are into like Marvel type deal, but I just heard this. My creative guy, Carlos, he told me this. He's obviously into art and comics and things like that. He said that if you are familiar with the X-Men characters, Professor and Magneto were rooted in, Professor was supposed to be Martin Luther King and Magneto was supposed to be Malcolm X. Think about that.
Yeah. I'm not into the Marvel series at all. I would have to take your word for it. But again, it just is a reminder that history repeats itself.
Yeah.
Like we have the struggles are the struggles. The same, they ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
Either you got money or you don't.
Yeah.
If you got money, it's a different perspective. If you don't, it's a different perspective. And to me, like those two different perspectives, that they rule a lot of what we do and how we do it. The haves and the have-nots.
Yeah, man. I'm appreciative of the space. I'm appreciative of you two guys. I can't wait to have a good old-fashioned Martin. Bring it in. Let's get a group hug. Friday at some point. I appreciate y'all, man. I absolutely, unequivocally love y'all, man. I appreciate y'all for how y'all show up and who y'all are.
Love you too. Appreciate it.
I love big dog.
Yes, sir.